Hello and welcome to WKNC's official sports podcast, In the Den. Today, we're going to be going over the Duke football game that happened over the weekend, as well as the Virginia Tech football game coming this weekend. We'll be looking at the Virginia Tech women's soccer game that is also coming up, I believe, this Saturday, I believe. We'll be going over the swimming and diving season that's coming up soon. I'll be talk about our notable athletes in defense, and I'll be talking about the Duke UNC doubleheader in volleyball this weekend as part of the ACC opener. So, get your headphones on and we'll go straight into the football coverage. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Duke loss first, our first loss of the season. I guess one big thing I wanted to talk about is RIP, the CJ Bailey Heisman run. He went and got 3 interceptions and a fumble that was turned over. There was the 2 touchdown passes to Terrell Anderson, but after that 27 lead early on with Hollywood Smothers getting another touchdown there, Duke was able to come back, and what was supposed to be a back and forth game afterwards should not have even happened, and resulted in Duke kind of getting that late bust out to win. But even if you remove those turnovers I mentioned before, you only removed 10 points from a 12-point victory. Granted, yes, I mean, some of those turnovers were probably in drives that they could have scored, but oh well. We'll never know for sure. We just know that Duke would not have had those points, and therefore Duke would probably not have won as much, or they could have even lost if we just cut down the turnovers. Which, I mean, it's not really a crazy idea. Oh, if you cut down the turnovers, you'll win the game. But, just kind of looking over it. That first interception, I thought Chandler Rivers had real great coverage there. Kind of underestimated the pass and defense of Duke after the Tulane game a little bit. Second one was a blitz that pressured Bailey into misreading the play. We'll see that a lot, I think, in next week's game, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. And the signed run that was stripped and recovered by Wesley Williams. I think there was one more that would happen that I forgot to mention that kind of like cost them the game. They did not silence Darian Mensah, Duke's quarterback, like I thought they would have. They took the route, throwing it down, and then scoring with the run game kind of early on to kind of help them get to that lead. Before they just said F and just started slinging it down the field once they got the advantage, because NC State's pass coverage is, I think, in the bottom 3 of the conference. But oh well. Running back Anderson Castle, told you to watch out for him. 3 touchdowns, while Mensah threw for 68% and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Some other things I liked about against the Duke, I thought the third down defense was kind of good. 7 incomplete passes or loss of yards on third downs against Duke, even though two of them became fourth down conversions, including touchdowns. So, I'm trying to just focus on the bright side here, but I guess there isn't too much to work with. Only a 50% pass efficiency for Mensah on third downs. So, there's a good pass defense somewhere in this team. They just got to kind of find themselves in that manner. But offensively, there was also some success on third down. Going 7 for 12, which even though the majority, I think 5 of the 7, they were banging third down attempts, including on that 99-yard drive they had. But in the second half, it just kind of disappeared, and they only had 2. And then, of course, one failure was a fourth down touchdown pass to Terrell Anderson, the 75-yard one. Speaking of Terrell Anderson, this is kind of going into the offensive MVP is between him and Smothers. I'll go a little bit more into that later, just kind of keep the suspense of it. So another good thing I like about this game, it kept CJ Bailey away from the portal for now. Because, if he was really good, he probably would end up in the transfer portal. But I think having that bad game probably dampers it a little bit. Because, NC State's like bottom of like the third best football conference. I mean, if trying to think of a team that would need a quarterback from like the Big Ten or SEC. Sorry, nothing's coming to my head. But like, let's say Francisco Mendoza goes to the NFL and then CJ Bailey's given him the opportunity. He'll take it. Same thing with South Carolina. Like, him being not super great is more of an advantage than I think it is. And the last thing I wanted to highlight as a good was the defensive line pressure. 3 sacks and 8 tackles for loss compared to Duke's 2 and 7. So slight competitive edge, including 2 tackles for loss on third downs. Mensa played well despite the pressure. But kudos to NC State for keeping it on him. I would say Darian Mensa is probably the top 3, maybe even the best quarterback in the ACC after this game. And I think NC State really made him earn that title. But now let's go with what I didn't like. Duke was a bigger aggressor of this, but penalties, I felt like were really costly because 2 of them kind of directly resulted in an outcome that resulted in a touchdown. For example, early on in the game, it was a 4th and 7th, but then it was like a false start, I believe, to make it 4 and 2, which is when they decided to go from punting to going for it, I believe, or it just made it easier to go for it, and so they went for it and they were able to get the touchdown. And another one got Duke inside of the 10, which, basically guarantees 3 points. I just felt like Marzar detrimental. Maybe I'm just kind of being a negative fan, though. Passing defense, giving up 7 first downs on 3rd and 4th. No, 5 first downs on 3rd and 4th. No, okay, 7, because there's the 2 4th down attempts that became touchdowns, which is technically like a first down conversion. Big yardage, wide open receivers were very common. Once Duke started weaning away from the rushing game, that's kind of when they started blowing NC State out of the water. Second half defense, they're outscored by 12 in the second half. 60% of their total yards and 53% of their scoring given up in the second half, which I know probably doesn't sound too crazy. I don't know why I put that in. I was just thinking like, okay, well, that's a 20% increase. That's 20% extra yards. Let's say that you went like 150 yards in the first half, Usually they don't. I feel like they do a lot more, but I'm just kind of saying that's an example. That would be 180 in the second half, which would make it like, it puts you a little bit closer to a touchdown. So I'm making sense. Don't worry, I'm making sense. 50%, 3% more scoring, even though I would say, Duke took over the lead at the beginning of the second half, and then it was just like, it almost felt like the game was over at that point. Like, it wasn't really a back and forth at all. Another flaw, Russian defense. Anderson Castle and Jaquez Moore took over the ground game, became a bigger factor than I believe they should have been. Maybe the running game. I was saying maybe the running defense should be considered a problem because they didn't really stop Jamari Taylor. Damon Claiborne still got some yards. I guess they kind of shut down the quarterback legs of Chandler Morris and Robbie Ashford, but Mensa doesn't run like that. And they had 2 running backs that were able to handle them. So I'm starting to think maybe that ECU defense was kind of a fluke. They're still like top 5, 7 in the league in total like rushing yards given up as a defense, but now I'm starting to get a little bit wary. Like, okay, All right, DJ Elliott, come on, let's start reining it in a little bit. We're getting a little bit nervous here. And I mentioned here like 2.7 yards per carry versus Wake Forest to like 4.3 yards per carry with Duke, including the 7.7 for Anderson Castle. I don't even think Jamari Taylor had that much. I think no, maybe like a 5.8, 8.5. No, 5.8. I think Anderson Castle ran over us better than Jamari Taylor did, but I'm not 100% sure. The last thing I want to say, who's the kicker? In the set, went 3 for 4 on extra points and only 1 of field goals, which I guess was blocked, but I don't know how much of that is a quarterback's fault and how much of it isn't. I just don't like it. Kicking it, inconsistency is a major thorn in our side. I know we probably would not have won a game with 4 extra points, but we kind of have to rely on our touchdowns to win, which is working right now. But the fact that there is no consistent, reliable plan B should be a major worry for NC State heading into the next game against Virginia Tech, even though they do not look too great. Offensive MVP, Terrell Anderson, he had 3 really big catches. 2 of them were touchdowns. One of them was like dive in between 2 defenders. It was really awesome. Hollywood Smothers, of course, is awesome. He's at 508 rushing yards in 4 games. He might even break. I was going to say he might break 2,000, but I don't think that's going to happen. 1,500? Shoot, maybe even 1,800. Defensive MVP, I put Trey Thomas. 1.5 tackles for loss, including a sack. Which, that sack was later turned into the drive that turned into a game-winning interception. I also put honorable mention 2.5 tackles for loss from Brandon Cleveland, 11 tackles from Caden Fordham. All right, Virginia Tech. I didn't really do too much looking into Virginia Tech football because they suck. They fired their coach Brent Pry 2 weeks ago. They lost against South Carolina. They got blown out by Vandy and Old Dominion. Offensive coordinator Philip Montgomery has taken the reins as interim, ensuring that their fear spread offense with triple option is consistent. Their defensive coordinator, Sam Seifs, brings the 3-4 tight front with some NFL coaching trickery. So what I've seen happen often is, the 3 high safety and flexibility of the 2 outside linebackers, where sometimes they won't necessarily have to load they don't necessarily have to load it with the linebackers, but sometimes they'll look like they've loaded a box, but then they'll just start flying out, and that's, supposed to trick up the quarterback in his pass and defense. I mean, I don't know how you can really tell where the linebackers are going until the ball is snapped, but it seems like they usually either go all in for the blitz or they sit back and go back into the pass. And of course, the 3 high safeties come in, especially for the depth, like the depth of the front, especially since NC State has shown with Terrell Anderson that a lot of deep stuff. Sorry, I kind of lost myself there. Hold on, what am I gonna say? Yeah, the 3 high safety, flexibility, 2 outside linebackers. Their defensive line, I think, is pretty strong. But so far, I'm only really going to be able to scout from the Wofford game just because Brent Pry isn't there to call stuff. Offensively, I think my biggest notice is that Kyron Jones cannot handle the pressure. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I think a lot of his interceptions come from loading up the pocket. Just comes from blitzing him, which I think is something NC State can do really well. I think their strength is in Jones, but more on his versatility with his legs and arms, just being a dual threat quarterback. He is a pretty good dual threat quarterback, obviously not the best, but I just think he's like one of those quarterbacks where you're like, damn, stop using your legs. 52 rushing attempts in 4 games is egregious. I do think things need to be just right in terms of pass and defensive line coverage for him to look really good, and we have not really seen that just yet. The defense can't really tackle much. The broken jukes and tackles that we saw from Duke, and they got tricked by the quarterback run a couple times again in Old Dominion. The defensive line kind of got choked up by Old Dominion as well, kind of leaving holes wide open, which left running backs and quarterback design QB runs untouched for several spans of play. And I don't know if the defensive backs are giving enough coverage. I thought Old Dominion's quarterback played pretty well. I know I mentioned I do Wolford, but the defense was better for Old Dominion because that quarterback was playing really well. And it was like, okay, I don't know if it was just like a really good quarterback with really good ball placement, really good receivers who are able to catch, or if it's just something where their passing defense is just not that great. I mean, they just don't have it. I don't really feel like this is a fully constructed football team, which makes sense because, I mean, they added to the budget, but there's been a lot of like prospects that are starting to wilter away. There's a big rotation of players still trying to figure itself out. This is just a season to figure out what its future is, like what I've been saying with NC State women's soccer. So this is her first conference game without Brett Pry in a good while, and they're hoping that they can keep their head above water, essentially, heading into basically the off season. All right, so we'll start with our Russian game comparisons. So NC State's Russian offense is really great. The offensive line takes good care of Hollywood's mothers, and he's able to really get some yards, really get some touchdowns. He's easily the best running back in the league, in my opinion. I don't know how I feel about Virginia Tech's Russian defense, just because, a lot of teams are able to kind of run all over them. I mean, just look at what Old Dominion did. Wofford, I think, was able to get some, even though they kind of leaned a little bit more towards the aerial attack from what I've seen. I just think that if I was Virginia Tech, I would be semi-worried about Hollywood's mothers. I think he'll be able to run all over that Virginia Tech defense. So advantage advantage going to NC State on that one. But I will give I will mention not NC State. The running back for Virginia Tech is Kyron Drones. Kidding. He's had 144 yards and freaking 4 touchdowns. The other big guy to mention is Terrion Stewart. He's been picking up a lot more in the last game, and in Old Dominion he got some reps. I think they're going to start using him a bit more. I am more worried now about teams that kind of use a good amount of running backs. PJ Priolu's gotten some reps. And there was one more. Marcellus Hawkins is the big one right now. I think this might be closer to an ECU Farius Russian offense than it is a Duke. I don't think that Virginia Tech's really going to have the ability to run through NC State. I think the defensive line is too strong for that. I think that we got great linebackers, and although we're not really better than like a South Carolina or Vanderbilt, who are able to kind of keep them running minimal, I think we'll be able to produce nearly the same level. So I'm going to say NC State wins the rushing game kind of outright. All right. The passing game, I know that the Heisman run for CJ Bailey's over now that he has gotten 3 interceptions and a fumble, so which now he has more touchdown throws and interception throws than Kyron Drones. I think that again, a defensive line for NC State I think could put a lot of pressure on Kyron Drones. While I think CJ Bailey couldn't really handle it. I don't think he's played a really super tough defensive line yet, but I don't think this is what we can see out of Virginia Tech. I mean, they've gotten some sacks. They have they have Kamari Copeland and Kevin Gilliam Jr., who have both been playing pretty well on the kind of pass rush. But I'm just kind of weary about this. Um, hmm. Yeah, I don't. And I think Terrell Anderson's kind of cemented himself as the number one running back receiver. I kind of mentioned that. I don't think I mentioned that fully yet, but Terrell Anderson, he's the number one receiver on the roster. I don't think they got anyone who could really cover him right now. Even in double coverage, he's been shown to make big catches. Of course, don't lean on him because I think we still got some decent guys on the roster, but Terrell Anderson has proven himself to be worthwhile number one receiver, and I would definitely keep an eye out for him on this game. They might double cover him, and then we might see some more reps from someone like Jolly or Grimes as a result. Well, on the Virginia Tech side, their best receivers, they have Donovan and Aiden Green, who both have like 200 rushing yards each. I don't know why I keep saying reception yards each, but I feel like it's a little bit more dispersed with NC State, where it's like kind of they both have the quantity and the quality, because Virginia Tech does have a lot of players who caught the ball, but a lot of them kind of have like 5-6 receptions. And then, of course, Green, Prioli, the running back. I just don't think that anything's really cohesive with this team just yet, and that's why I'm kind of sort of breezing through this. I think this will be an easy win for NC State to kind of get themselves back in it. It's just that I guess the one big thing I should be worried about is the kicking, because, of course, we still don't have a good kicker. But Virginia Tech's kicker, John Love, hasn't been too bad. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, 85% along to 56 yards. He's been playing pretty good for Virginia Tech, and that's kind of the one big thing that I worry about. It's just that, I mean, is he going to be a difference maker? I doubt it. It's at home in NC State. I think we're kind of all just ready to get our heads back in the game after how messed up last week was. But that's something to kind of keep an eye out. Let's actually take a look at their punter, too. I meant to do all this before. I apologize, but it has been... Okay, yeah, Nick Feltzistas with 57-yard long, 44.8 average, which I think is like one of the ones that is sort of better than NC State. I wouldn't kind of put that in stone, but yeah, 25% punts inside the 20 compared to, NC State, where they have, I believe it was only like, I think it may have been in the 20s as well, just like a little bit less for Newcastle. Let me double check. Yeah, okay, 44.8 average for both. I mean, they're both kind of in the middle, but 38% in the 20. I kind of give that advantage to NC State. So ultimately, I think the best way to win this game is just put the pressure on Kyron Jones. Just kind of like blitz it a lot. Kind of make him make the mistakes and make him do the crappy throws. Kind of like what happened with Wake Forest. And then with the run, just keep them from going east-west because they seem to kind of have things figured out where they can have Stewart on the outside and he can burst for some big yards. Kyron Jones escaping the pocket as well. So kind of, outside linebackers make them real outside to kind of minimize that. And offensively, I would say just let Hollywood Smothers run all over them. Set up some throwing plays too. I would say ease it down a bit just because of what happened in this last game. But if they kind of went full force, I wouldn't mind. I have the kind of final score for this game being a 38-24 NC State. All right, I'm done talking about that. Coming up next is the women's soccer for Virginia Tech. All right, so the poor kind of football coverage out of the way, we're going to talk about the Virginia Tech's women's soccer, SMU, FSU. We went in the record of, I believe, just 1-0-1. So no losses. We're improving. SMU got up a lot of shots in that first half with like 6-1 out shooting, but Platypus notched 4 saves as well as one save by the team that happened in the second half. Offensively, NC State managed to kick into high gear in the second half, get 9 total shots, including a goal by Bordelot, assisted by Nantaka. While both teams, I believe, showed up defensively, I think they only had like 6 total shots on goals. No, 7. There was a lot of foul trouble with about 11 each, but SMU was able to kind of transition it to corner kicks, which I'm still kind of iffy about those just because it's a better opportunity to score when you're getting it from a corner kick, because if you can angle it just right, I feel like it's a lot easier to have a plan. And I feel like it's a lot easier to practice for corner kicks and figuring out how to score in corner kicks than it is just a regular average soccer play, which is why I'm always iffy. But 1-1-0, and now FSU. FSU did kind of take away a win and got the second tie, but NC State, they played great even though they were out done with total shots on goal. Platypus got 3 more saves. NC State lost the foul trouble with 5 yellow cards. NC State was able to get the last laugh because they were able to get a Bordelot penalty kick in the 81st minute that was offset by a goal near the last minute by Rihanna Hudson, and the result was a 1-1 tie. Comparing it to my previous rant makes me a bit happier about what's going on. I think even though they were kind of outmatched in both games, I just thought that everything kind of came just right. Jay Bordelot, she's kind of come alive. She's got 3 to 4 goals, and since that rant, I believe. Well, no, she had a couple with Campbell Notre Dame stretch, but ever since mid-September, she has been playing lights out. Platypus, I thought she's taking a big step up, and she's starting to kind of improve and rise up the, goalie rankings in the ACC. Brooklyn Hull, Alex Moore, Yunaiki headline a defense that may be getting in foul trouble, but I think they're doing their job with keeping the scoring opportunities minimal. I don't think any team has really played lights out against NC State like what happened earlier on in the season with, I think, teams like Utah, ECU. I think we're starting to get a little bit better. And I think getting the young players off the bench with like Duda and Mantaka still kind of being key parts of the offense. I'm not mad. I'm not disappointed with where they are right now. Hopefully we see more out of them as, we start to head into this Virginia Tech game, for instance, and the rest of the in-conference schedule. I think right now they are still near the bottom, but the team they're facing up against is also one of those teams that is near the bottom. Virginia Tech with losses to UNC, Wake Forest. And while this game is hosted in Blacksburg, I think you should keep an eye out for NC State. Virginia Tech did get a blowout win against Clemson. So they do have some success in the conference, not like NC State does, but oh well. Virginia Tech has a 0.82 goal margin, which I think NC State has gone up to like a 0.69 goal margin. They have a decent offense, giving up roughly 2 goals a game, but their defense is a weak spot, giving up about 1 a game, which I know sounds like a winning record, but remember, we're kind of early. So this also includes the 72 save percentage by the goalie, and kind of being bottom 3 in fouls with NC State. It's gonna be a foul game. Yellow flags everywhere. I would bet there's a red flag. If I don't do sports gambling, WKNC doesn't support sports gambling like that. But there's probably gonna be a red card flown out. I think Virginia Tech is only slightly better than NC State. And they do have a really great offense with 4 different players in that squad scoring 4 goals, and 3 of them having multiple assists. Let's see, Natalie Mitchell is a good one. Hannah Passion, she is probably the most accurate shot on goal producer, where 4 for 7 shots on goals have become goals. And Elena Salama and Ann Weir lead the team in total shots per goal. So I think about 10 or 11 between the two, respectively. Virginia Tech, they have been using Lauren Hargrove as their goalie. They have 2 shutouts in 11 games versus part of us 4. But it's only third but it is like top 3 in the league with total saves tallying at 39, which is how I know this is a defensive issue, because she's playing well. I just think that they're putting too much onto her, because how can you be near the bottom of save percentage but near the top in overall saves? It kind of adds up to just being that Virginia Tech does not have good defenders, and NC State doesn't have great defenders, which is how I think we have the little advantage, because I do trust our offensive players more, even defensive players more, even though our offense is kind of weak. So this game is probably just going to come down to who chokes, honestly. I think Virginia Tech has the stronger offense. Offense, but NC State has stronger goalie and better defensive play, especially closer to the goalposts. I think Virginia Tech's home advantage will prove big, but as long as NC State can get another offensive player to step up and notch in at least 2 goals, they'll win. The only question is, can they? And I mean, I kind of doubt it, just because we haven't seen anyone really pop off outside of Mentaka. She's got a lot of chances to get it in. She hasn't gotten it in yet. Bordelot is only starting to pick up. Daisy Duda, she's also one who can't get it in. Antonella Maciato could probably try a bit more. I don't trust it too much. Final score projection, 2-1, Virginia Tech. Oh, well. But, hey, make sure to support the team. I think Friday is when they play. So, yeah, make sure to support Virginia Tech losing to NC State. All right. Coming next, we're going to be looking at the Duke UNC doubleheader in women's volleyball. All right. So now we're going to go into the volleyball. So NC State, I think they've really stepped up. I think they went from looking uncertain to having a brighter future set in store for themselves. Courtney Bryant, she's been highlighted in a really strong offense, assisted by Jordan Smith and Alara Filar, taking the forefront on providing a set of plays, even though we have Ashley Mullen too. I think Filar does also provide a little bit of a defensive edge. Uh, Speaking of defense, freshman Sushia Machi-Shuwix has taken a really commanding precedence in digs, while Talia Francombe and Willie Cropper. And Willie Cropper is also kind of a utility player. Like, I've seen her score a lot. I've seen her doing a lot of defense. Like, her and Fuller are very much key players, even though they're not really stars. Willie Cropper and Talia Francombe, they offer a lot of blocks. I think this team has shown a few flaws when it comes to like errors and slow moments when they rely on the rotation of freshman hitters. I mean, when you bring in Samira Dorsey and Rebecca Ring and veteran defender Sydney Daniels, I do think it kind of slows down a little bit. I think that there are series where it feels like NC State does shoot themselves in the foot a lot more than they should. They are still unranked, but I think they're ready to kind of show this week what they got. I am really high on this NC State women's volleyball team to at least make a big splash this season. Which I can't really say the same about Duke. Duke is one of the bottom teams in the conference, and there's no way to sugarcoat it. They're dead last in hitting percentage, third to last in opponent scoring percentage, and dead last in total blocks. Every major statistic, they're at least in the bottom 3 to 5, and as an ACC home opener, there is plenty of room of optimism for that. They are 3-8 on the season with a notable win of Alabama State and losses to Georgia, Houston, Mississippi State. I did mention ACC home opener, but Duke is hosting, which I feel like is not as big as a home advantage as I think it is. NC State could probably fill it up a little bit if we really tried our hardest and we all came together and we bought out a bunch of Duke tickets that they'll probably not give us. Notable players on the roster include Taylor Williams with they're kind of 3.24 kills per set. They have Charlotte Glass setting up the assists. Some defensive players like Zoe Gillen Malfio and Malene Godshaw leading the team defensively when it comes to digs and blocks. Despite the fact that they suck, we should still look at them as a big rival. We should still kind of play cautious. I think that there's definitely our strength will be with our. I do believe our strength will be with our offense over our defense, and then just as long as we play a semi-clean game, and Courtney Bryant's been playing lights out. As long as the defense stays on top of it, I think NC State will be able to handle Taylor Williams and Duke. Now, can we say the same about UNC? I would say that UNC is arguably in the middle of the road, just as much as NC State. They're top 5 in hit percentage, but near the middle in kills per set and opponent blocks. Defensively, they're bottom 5 in opponent hit percentage and opponent kills. So, Courtney Bryant, Jordan Smith, Alara Filar, Ashley Mullen, they're eating that Sunday night they play. UNC does have a 7-2 record, but that includes wins against number 11 Florida and Coastal Carolina. But their 2 losses came from teams NC State faced as well. Kansas State, who we also lost to, and South Carolina, who we managed to beat. Some notable players on the roster. Safi Hampton with 3.55 kills per set, and Chelsea Thorpe with a 31% accuracy, which is the highest on the team, and I think one of the highest in the conference. Zoe Burnt 5.8 assists per set. Maddie May, who gets 4 digs per set, which is one of the top in the league. And their block leader, Jackie Taylor, is also pretty good. So, despite that, their defense kind of sucks. They kind of have to lean on Maddie May. I think Safi Hampton and Chelsea Thorpe will not be too hard to stop. I think this will be another game. This will be the opposite of that Duke game where I think if they kind of rely on their offense, they'll be just fine. So we'll see both sides of what makes NC State a dark horse for the ACC in my not ACC championship, but ACC like tournament March Madness style run. I think could potentially maybe probably happen. But we won't know until they play this weekend, so make sure to come out and support them, either on the TV, I don't know where they're streaming it, probably ESPN Plus, or even in person in the games. I think it will be important to see how they look and how they turn out against their biggest rivals, and I think it will set the precedence for how their season will look. All right, so we'll go on to our final session with the swimming and diving preview. All right, so final segment, the swimming and diving preview. NC State men's, there hasn't been any rankings that have come out as of time of recording, but NC State men's, they finished last year 7th overall with 277 team points, and NC State women's finished 10th with 270. The most notable big event is the one to start the season with the dual meet tournament. Forgot to record the date, but I believe it was early November. And it had Minnesota, Georgia, Auburn, Florida State, who all also finished in the top 25, who will be participating in it, hosted by Georgia Tech. George Washington University and Army will be there as well. I think most of these tournaments are like both men and women's kind of, I want to say bracket style, but just kind of like Olympic style, like tournament where it's like the preliminaries and then the actual winning race. Home opener, November 7th with Ohio State and Virginia Tech. Oh, Virginia Tech, they're back. Look at that. And then add Texas as part of like a national swim team competition. I think they have a few of these, but it'll probably take the course of the season for the big ones to really show up. Some of the best swimmers who are returning in terms of overall points. There's Quentin McCarty with the freestyle, getting 934 points. Lance Norris, the freestyle, getting 912. Daniel Deal, who kind of does backstroke freestyle, get with 879. And then some of the women's is Kennedy Noble, Leah Shackley, and Erica Polaise. And most of them kind of play the backstroke or the free or the fly. Let's see, Shackley with 948, Polaise with 915, and Noble with 863. So I don't know if you're a big swim fan, but also make sure to check them out. People didn't really talk about them except for that controversial, like a jet, for celebrating thing. But, make sure to support the team. I know that things are kind of getting harder, but I think we should definitely take an effort to, whenever you can. And I think that kind of conclude today's episode. It was kind of rough today, but that's fine. I think next week I'll probably be more freshened up and ready to go. Our next episode will be going over Campbell football. We got a soccer game. I'm not sure which one I want to go over, either women's Wake Forest or men's Virginia. Volleyball, either Miami or FSU, and then we'll go over the rest on season. So that's all for today. Have a good day and go Pack.